Now let's look at what's contained in a conservation easement. Division of the land. The conservation easement will say how many pieces the land can be broken into so that large parcels of land are left intact. 100 acres of land must be left in one piece. 200 acres can be cut into two pieces, 300 acres into three pieces, and so on. Buildings and structures. The conservation easement will specify how many buildings and structures can be built, where they can go, and how big they can be. Usually 2 houses are allowed per 100 acres, and an unlimited number of barns or outbuildings can be built.
Allows us to have 2 houses on this part of the farm, and if we would like that, and then 2 on the forest part of it.
And the forest part and this part over here, that I say over here is 260 acres, 230 acres in this tract, can be divided once and sold if we so desire. Of course, we'll leave it to our daughters, and they can do whatever they want to with.
We have 3 children, and at the present time 2 grandchildren. And one of the things that we had reservations about is, of course, when we pass on how you can divide it up between all of them, and but we worked up an agreement that was satisfactory to to my wife and to myself and to the children to subdivide it a few different ways to take care of that. And we can build a couple, 2 or 3 houses on it to take care of those things. So it worked out okay for us.
Industrial or commercial activities. Agriculture, forestry, and equine activities are permitted. Commercial or industrial activities are prohibited to protect the character of the land.
With the conservation easement, what can be done as far as development is very limited, and for the most part it will remain an agricultural unit.
It has to remain forever in some type of agriculture. It can be vineyards, it can be almost anything, the way I understand, that grows out of the ground that you plant.
We're working through the soil and water district to fence off our Tinker Creek so cows will no longer be drinking and doing other things in the creek. And we'll have to put in a fence to keep them out of the creek, and before we put in a fence we have to drill a well so the cows that are in the pasture will have water. And the soil and water people provide 3/4 the cost of the fencing and the well. That's helpful.
The conservation easement we placed on the property does not in any way or shape or form affect the way that we operate the farm. It has no bearing on the cattle operation. It will have no bearing on the sawmill operation. The only restriction on the sawmill was that it was restricted to a certain acreage which we negotiated, and which is, you know, plenty to do what we do up there with it.
Forest management. Timber harvest must include best management practices, or BMPs, to control erosion and protect water quality, and normally a forest management plan is required before commercial timbering begins. Personal uses such as firewood cutting are not restricted.
There's about 200 acres of it that's in timber, and I say managed timber because we have we cut the timber off of it twice with Forest Service's best management practices, which we have to comply with now, and seeded it back in, set it back in pine, loblolly and white pine, and they are growing and looking pretty. I like to see things like that grow, particularly when they're growing into money.
Trash. There are no restrictions against brush piles, composting, farm machinery storage, or other agricultural or wildlife management practices, but trash, refuse, or junk will not be permitted on your land. You will not be responsible for cleaning trash brought in by floodwaters or other situations beyond your control. Signs. You can still post your land and have signs to show your address, advertise the sale or lease of your land, or goods and services produced there, or direct visitors, but billboards and other large signs are not permitted. Grading, blasting, and mining. You can still construct private roads and utilities to serve permitted structures. Farm roads and ponds are also allowed, but mining and other earth removal is prohibited. This does not in any way restrict cultivation. Inspection. The land trust that holds your easement will visit your property annually after giving reasonable notice. Inspections only deal with the terms specified in the easement, things that are simple and obvious to monitor. There are other provisions regarding notifying your land trust if you sell or transfer your land, and the land trust's legal obligation to enforce the terms of the easement. Before you complete an easement, you should be sure to get legal counsel and become clear on all the legal issues involved. In the next chapter, we'll take a closer look at the financial benefits of conservation easements.